let's go around and introduce ourselves. We'll start with you, Mr. Gates. Forrest Dunbar.
Mr. Constant.
What? Eric.
Your name for the
People are getting a little loopy.
Eric
It's been a long,
Sorry.
long day.
Long week.
Long week.
Felix Brad. Crystal P.
I thought you were going to say Spider-Man. All right. So we have another. Yeah. I think we have. Yeah. I don't want to blow your cover. We have another ordinance related to the alcohol industry before us, co-sponsored by Mr. Croft and myself. I should say that I had thought about doing this a number of years ago, and it just I did some research on this. I originally had thought about extending the number of hours it was open at night, and we found quite a lot of evidence that led to an increase in violent crime, unfortunately. But that kind of evidence doesn't seem to exist for the morning hours. And actually, you know what, Mr. Croft, do you want to present this? I mean, I could.
No, go ahead. That's fine.
So,
then come in by.
Folks. So the ordinance doesn't require much explanation in terms of the law. You know, currently under Alaska state law, you can open at 8 a.m., but under municipal law, we don't allow establishments to open until 10 a.m. This ordinance would allow during the week opening at 9 a.m. and during the weekend to open at 8 a.m. And so you might ask, like, well, why is this? Why do you need this? So there's a couple of reasons. One, folks getting off night shift, and I've learned this more that my girlfriend is an ICU nurse. Folks getting off night shift sometimes want to drink a beer to wind down. Second, there's been a rise in the number of sporting events that occur at kind of odd hours in the United States because of things like the World Cup or European soccer, which are getting more popular. And I've spoken to some vendors that have said, you know, I would love to do an event with Bloody Marys or mimosas or whatever at 8 a.m. on a Sunday. Now, I think the timing of this also isn't a coincidence. We are perhaps going to have a 5% tax on the sale of alcohol. Insofar as, so I'm actually skeptical of some of what the Pigovian logic of the administration. I don't think it actually will reduce consumption very much at all. But to the degree it will, this will give them another opportunity to create some profit. The last thing I'll say, having talked to, I believe it was people at the former Brown Bag, you know, there was an issue with sort of vomit and other things outside of Brown Bag, and they didn't open until 10 a.m., so they didn't clean it till 10 a.m. And if they opened at 8 a.m., they told me they would have cleaned it earlier. It doesn't even come from them, but downtown, they're more likely to clean things quicker if they could open earlier. Mr. Croft, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so all the things that he said, plus in a town that has a heavy tourist presence, a state and a town, places like the airport where it may make sense by people's flight pattern, they might want to drink as they head off to their vacation or come through or in between. The Silver Gulch owner, Glenn, who operates the concession in the airport, said because they can't serve until 10, they did open at 8 and serve a breakfast, but then people were irritated when they couldn't order a drink and fight with them about whether they could, and they just decided it was too much trouble, and so they just started opening at 10 instead of fighting with their clients and customers from 8 to 10. Other tourist stuff, you know, the trains that run up to Denali, some people would like, and you just can't until you get out of Anchorage Limits. So it seems an area that is unlikely for significant abuse. There's always that potential, and creates, as you said, if we're going to ask the alcohol industry to either be a collector or contribute some, that we find ways to grant their reasonable requests. And they've been asking for this and talking about this for some time. I've heard it for some of the representatives. And so I thought a good time, and you, Mr. Chairman, to have this discussion.
Thank you. Are there any questions for my colleagues about this ordinance? How it will be going to affect?
I have a question. Is this on our current agenda?
Mm-hmm.
Like for 14?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's, you mean 18? It was introduced on the 4th. It'll be, have public,
Yeah, public in the 14th.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
No,
It's
it's
just-
not, so it's the next week.
This will be, no, it is. On December 18th, it'll be in the 14th.
Okay.
Yep. What? Am I wrong?
Alcohol tax is item 14P, and this ordinance is item 14.
There you go. Mr. Weddleton.
I guess having done most of my drinking in New Orleans, which I don't think had any, I did there ignored. But,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, what is, we don't have these hours now, probably for a reason. Why do we have restricted hours at all?
I've heard it was a reaction to the roaring 70s and the early 80s, that it was sort of pipeline. Yeah, so pipeline stuff, it was part of the measures that cracked down after that, but I don't really know.
So some of it, as I said, some of it comes from state law. So we can't go to 24-hour, nor do I think we should, but some of it is mandated by state law. We are more restrictive than state law. I don't know, were you around when we did that, Mr. Training?
You always tell us you're around.
it's just it's blue laws, right?
I
I mean,
no firm reference for this, so go with that.
What's that?
I know.
No opposition?
No.
Mr. Peterson.
No personal.
Oh.
I know opposition to it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When I first moved here in 1981, the bars were open until 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And there were some bars that opened back at 6 a.m. I think the law in those days was that you had to be closed for 1 hour a day. And I found this out when I was working the first job I got here in Alaska at the Anchorage Times downtown. And in those days, the Times had deliveries in the afternoons during the week, and on weekends it was a morning delivery. And so the first morning that I had to come in at 6 a.m. or whatever it was, I noticed as I was driving down 4th Avenue, there was groups of people standing out along the sidewalk. I mean, 30, 25, 50 people just standing out there. And so when I got to work, I asked people, what were all those people doing, standing along the street doing? What's that all about? They're going, oh, the bar's closed. It'll be opening back up in a few minutes as soon as they get it cleaned, and then they'll go right back in and start over. And so we sort of tried to clean up our, I guess you'd call it maybe frontier atmosphere that was going on here during the pipeline construction days. And so that's when they reduced the hours to 10 a.m. to 3 a.m.
Yeah, and I'll note that per capita violent crime rates in Anchorage were actually much higher in the late 70s, early 80s, actually into the mid-90s than they are now. And that was even not counting domestic violence, which often was ignored at the time and not reported. And still our rates of violent crime were higher. Mr. Gates?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Peterson's was very credible. I did research on this back in, I guess when this Anchorage service time first came up about a year ago, and I wrote a summary what happened in Anchorage in 1981. There were 4 ordinances about changing times, and they put off the process for 6 months when I considered it. And we simply had a liquor license application at UAA, and they also wanted to, or were concerned with the public and every problem and so forth. But I'm not going to go through all of that. I want to send you this memo that I wrote outlining that history that I can inform you for Tuesday night.
Great. Ms. Quinn Davidson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm having a hard time with this one because in one sense I understand you go to watch a soccer game and you want to be able to have Bloody Mary. I'm particularly here for myself, but I understand that. But on the other hand, we just had this presentation about the impacts of alcohol to our communities and to our society. And to me, I think if you really need a drink at 8 a.m., I just wonder what that population is, and I also wonder what the health impacts and having people drink for longer periods of time than they're out on the roads, and some of those impacts to our community we've been discussing. I was wondering, Ms. Hall, if you had any thoughts on that, because I know you work in this field.
Sure. Hi, again, Tiffany Hall with Recover Alaska. And I only recently found out about this, so I haven't had a ton of time to do all of my research, but the very first thing I always go to is the Surgeon General's report on alcohol, drugs, and health, which you produced 2 years ago, and that very clearly says that increasing hours of sale by 2 or more hours is proven to increase the harms of alcohol. I don't have specifics on what those harms are right now, and we have not yet had a chance to look around statewide to see how that's played out here in Alaska, but that's what evidence shows.
Will you be at the meeting on Tuesday? Do you think you'll
At the assembly meeting?
Yeah, or others might have an opportunity to share some information.
Yes, and hopefully by then I will know a little bit more. And also just as a point to chair with your comment about the vomit and cleaning it up earlier, bars are allowed to be open, they just aren't allowed to serve, so they could clean that vomit up earlier.
Right, but they're not likely to pay their folks to be there, many hours before they're open.
Sure, although I also know that some places that serve alcohol and food do open and serve food ahead of time, so maybe people aren't doing that at this time.
Sure.
When does your group meet again so you could all look at this? Is that early January or?
My steering committee meeting will meet January 11th.
And is that a steering committee, and then does your whole committee meet?
That is my whole,
Okay.
our setup is a little bit weird, so my entire thing is the steering committee. I have an advocacy committee that also meets a little bit more regularly.
So January 11th, if we postponed it till after that, you'd have time to at least put it before your whole group.
That would be, yep. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. It's interesting. I when I first got in the assembly, I read a lot of the research I think you're talking about. There's a lot of it out of Australia where they expanded the hours, but it was always at night. It was like we're going from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. And that seemed a pretty tight correlation with increased violence and harms from alcohol. I don't know if I saw any research that said going from 10 a.m. to 9 a.m. So I would like to see that kind of research broken out if you have it. And even if there are some increased harms to alcohol, I think that that to me isn't necessarily dispositive. We're doing other things to try to reduce the harm of alcohol. I'll also say, if the logical conclusion of that would be to not serve alcohol at any time, right? Would be to prohibit alcohol any hour of the day. But we tried that in this country, and it didn't work particularly well. So I think it's always a sort of balancing and working with the industry as well. Mr. Destin?
And the libertarian part of me says, why not? When in doubt, let people do what they want to do. So interesting issues come up. We can artificially kind of create a pressure to do irresponsible things. So a few years ago, when I had another job like this, we made it legal for recorking of bottles. So if you're sitting with your best friends, and got a jug of wine, and so on and so forth, the pressure on you is to finish that bottle of wine before you leave, and so on. So I think we made it legal so you can recork the thing. And as long as you don't pull the cork while you're driving, you're good, So I never would have thought of that, And the same thing of get close to bar closing hours, 20 minutes to last, round. So guys buy 3 drinks.
Yeah.
They're stacked there in front of them and so on. So relaxing these things can limit those self-imposed crisis things. And oh, by the way, if you look at the records, child abuse is my hot button. The 2 weeks after the permanent fund dividends go up, goes up by 35%. And so does domestic violence and intimate partner stuff. And I'm going to be trying to get the legislature to pay the dividends monthly. And get away from that crisis point. And so on. Like most of my good ideas, it'll probably go nowhere. But those are the kind of things that we can think back on and eliminate some of the problems. I don't know if this one solves problems or not. I can't imagine wanting to start drinking at 8 in the morning. But
Thank you, Mr. Dyson. Mr. Constey?
Yeah, I think that always with alcohol, there's that tension between the line of the prohibition and the freedom, and the problems and the rights of people to have peaceful enjoyment of their decisions. And the people who I think about, you spoke of so well, are the people who are the shift workers, the hospital workers, even the police officers who work all night long, and they're done. They're ready for dinner at 6, 7, 8 in the morning, not ready for bed or
After work happy hour.
not getting out of bed, right? And so there are a whole lot of people, probably a quarter of our community, who live in an environment where their lives actually are opposite of mine. And so I'm interested to understand the difference between the night violence and the morning violence on the question or the problems related to the change of the hours. But ultimately, we aren't just making rules for people who live like we do. We're making rules for all the people who support in our community. And I think our workers too have rights.
Yeah, I would say on that, the violence, a lot of it occurs right around bar break, obviously, and this doesn't have those same issues. It does increase the number of hours people can drink, but typically a person doesn't start drinking at 9 in the morning and then drink all the way to the bar break. I'm not saying it doesn't happen occasionally, but the vast majority of people that would take advantage of this would not be those kind of folks that binge drink and then are on the street at bar break. Mr. Weddleton?
Yeah, what are the hours for package stores?
They're longer, I think, right?
Yeah, we didn't change it for this, so this is sort
curious
of,
about that.
No, I don't know.
This ordinance on page 2, I put the whole code section it's being amended here so you can see those section C's about legislators.
do they stay 10 a.m.?
Oh, no, yeah, so they're 10 a.m. right now.
Meaning on Sunday.
And Mr. Chair,
Yep.
we asked Recovery Alaska, and that was entirely appropriate, but can we have Char, if you wanted to say something about the...
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, Sarah Oates, OATES, with Alaska Chart. As you can expect, we are supportive of this. We don't expect a significant portion of our membership to open earlier. It would be cost prohibitive for them to do so. Because I'd say a relatively small portion of the population wants to come in and get a beer or a shot at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning. This will allow for more places to offer a mimosa to the moms who want to go shopping on the weekend and stop and get a mimosa or something beforehand, or Bailey's and coffee or Bloody Mary. And as also pointed out by some of the assembly members, sports fans. I love to watch football on Sundays, and unless I go to a place that has a restaurant designation permit, I can't watch that game at my favorite bar. If that's my hangout place that I want to go with my friends. Additionally, you have tourists, people coming off the planes, as Mr. Croft pointed out, who are on a totally different time zone, and they're getting into Alaska or waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and to them, that's news. And maybe they want to have a beer at lunch or something. So again, I don't think every bar is going to exercise this option, and I haven't heard any data talking about how there are drinking problems in the morning, maybe 3 o'clock in the morning, but not at these hours that we're discussing. So I also will try to look at some information, look for some research about extending the hours earlier in the morning and try to bring that to the Assembly United States.
Thank you. Mr. Constant and Mr. Peterson.
Thank you. 2 things. On the hours of the package store, I would recommend exercise of great caution, because package stores are, in fact, the places where people who suffer social ills line up at the very first hour of the day and begin the process of decaying through the day. And so I would offer that the biggest complaints I have in my neighborhood about liquor aren't bars, it's the package stores selling to people who are inebriated on the street at 10 in the morning. And that is a very much a real concern. But I have a question, maybe it's for you, Sarah, or somebody. Is there a special permit, either at the union or the state, where some operator can apply, and then if there is an Olympics at 3 in the morning in an off-hour time, be able to have a celebration in their place?
No. They would still be bound by, at 3 in the morning by state law, but in the municipality, not.
Mr. Peterson?
Thank you. And I was wondering why 9 a.m. was chosen instead of 8 a.m.
So was Darwin.
It seems like part of the reason that 9 a.m. was chosen is because the NFL starts on 9 on Sundays, But college football on Saturday starts at 8 a.m. So.
Well, it's 8 a.m. on Saturdays and Sundays. It's not
Now
8
you're
during the
getting
week.
some very
Oh,
valid
right,
reasons
okay.
to do it.
All right,
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that.
Don't worry, you
so
can
the-
watch Iowa get smoked by Alabama.
Serious now.
Spoke by LSU.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
They've been trying to get this introduced for a long time, and when I told Darwin that I introduced it, he's like, "Yeah, but you gotta get that 9!" Like, this is all, anyway. I think what he meant was thank you. So that'll be an ongoing discussion, I think, on this, right? So I don't know, I just sort of split the baby, if you want, just to really put it at 9. But we can have that discussion. Do you want to reject it and keep it at 10? Do you want to have some 9, 8, or have it all to 8? And at least the tourist industry, I'm sure Charswell would like it all at 8, but we can make that decision.
I think Mr. Dyson would object to you splitting babies.
No split babies. That's the parable there is don't split the baby. It's like, you forget the message.
Okay.
He said, I think he wants
Okay.
you not to split the baby.
Is there anyone else from the Eastman Davidson?
Well, I just wanted to thank both of you for being here, because it's really valuable for us. You guys are experts, and so to hear from you and be able to ask questions is really appreciated.
Is there anyone else from the public or from the administration who'd like to speak to this ordinance? Go ahead, sir. Please identify yourself for the record.
I'm Darwin Beaver. I own Darwin's Theory. I'm chairman of the board for Cook and the Char, which is an affiliate of State Char. I've been at Darwin's Theory now for 37 years, so I probably know more about drinking around downtown than anybody. The main thing about this ordinance is it's voluntary. It's basically pointed at the tourism industry. So like myself at downtown, we have tourists running around all summer long at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning because it's daylight. They're not used to that. Now I have airline crews with their nose pressed up against the glass at 10 o'clock because they won't have a nightcap after their flights. And that's before they, they would have a nightcap, have, dinner, and then go to bed and sleep until they have to fly again late in the evening. So the biggest thing is, now we've talked quite a bit about the shift workers, and that's entirely true. The airport is the biggest thing. Glenn Brady was, he's one that we made a presentation before the Visit Anchorage tourism people, their board of directors, and which Eric is on that board. What Glenn Brady said was about the 9 o'clock tourists are on vacation. They don't care. They don't know what time it is. So it's just, there's no reason to have it at 9 o'clock, I believe. I think it should be 8 o'clock all the way across. But it's mainly geared toward tourism. So like downtown, I cannot keep my bartender there at 10 o'clock. So I don't know what I'm gonna do if I open at 9 or 8. But it's only probably during the tourist season. And a lot of people like at Riley's or Eddie's Sports Bar, somebody out of town that don't have much tourism business, they probably won't even open. So it's going to be very few bars that are even going to take advantage of this. But the ones, especially at the airport, I mean, we got planes coming and going all the time. It's really important at the airport to be able to have a lot of people need a drink before they get on a flight. So, but the other one that's I know for sure is the new picnic club up in Girdwood, who is tourism oriented because of the hotel there. They specialize in mimosas, different flavored mimosas. So they have the same problem there. Why can't we have a drink now? It's early in the morning with their breakfast. When Glenn Brady had the same problem trying to explain to people why the assembly had these rules. And the culture of drinking has changed considerably since the Roaring '70s. I mean, there's not near the drinking that carry on that there was back those days. So it's a way different culture. It's something that benefits mostly the tourists. We don't make much money off of it anyway. A lot of people come in early in the morning and just drink coffee. There's a lot of that.
Thank you, Darwin. Mr. Constance, a question for you.
Yeah, thanks. Darwin, the thing that comes to mind, you say it's voluntary, and I always know that with these liquor licensees and setting rules up that there are operators who are excellent and there are operators that are not so excellent. And what I always wonder is, with a liquor license, it's really hard for the city to do anything about it, because ultimately it's a state right and property right. And do you imagine there is some kind of way we could address an operator's operation so that if they are proven to be a source of trouble at 8 in the morning, that we can call back that hour or kind of reduce? What are your thoughts on that idea if you have a bad operator? Sarah?
I have thoughts. I used to be a regulator, so.
Yep.
You were for ABC boards.
Yep.
My thoughts on that are you could either put conditions via conditional use permit, or you could put conditions on the liquor license. Talked with the ABC board. Right before I left to start working with Alaska Char, I was working with municipalities, and so was Jen Smith, you know, many of you probably know, to do better education of local government as to what their rights and responsibilities are. And actually, I was here a number of months ago, sitting right over there, speaking with you all as a regulator about what those rights and responsibilities are. And setting conditions on a license or on a conditions permit is something I certainly do.
So your position would be then we have the tools we need to address the problem operator if they're doing something bad in the morning.
I think it's simply a matter of enforcement. And if you know who those operators are, that can be addressed through enforcement.
Okay, second, Eric, my concern is it's more technical in nature, that we're proposing something. We've heard about Girdwood, we've heard about the airport, and we know this is a downtown issue. And so I think that these questions should at least be forwarded through the Girdwood Board of Supervisors, the Downtown Community Council, and the Sand Lake Community Council for their opinion. Is it Sand Lake Airport? So is it Turnigan? So whoever it is,
I wouldn't want to give either of those community councils carte blanche on this.
not a carte blanche. It's not. We ask them for what their opinion is on the question. What that means really is, I think we need to allow ourselves time enough through their January meeting to have a voice in our process.
That'd be fun. When are our meetings in January?
15th and 29th.
So either one of those would be fine. I think we should give opportunity for people to know and comment on it.
Ms. LaFrance.
Question for Mr. Brock. So have you received any feedback from APD on this?
No, and again, that's another reason why maybe not be in a big hurry. I think though Char has been interested in it for a while and talking about it for a while, I don't think it's been out on the public very much. So I don't have any APD, and we could try and get some, see what they're doing.
I have a comment on that. APD does not enforce liquor law, Title 4, basically. They do for DWIs, underage drinking, off of licensed premise. Who enforces Title 4 is the bartenders, the waiters, the waitresses. They check IDs, they make sure there's no more than 2 drinks in front of anybody at any one time. Drunk on premise laws, there's a whole purple book full of Title IV laws and regulations that we have, we at CHAR train all of these bartenders to the rules, the regulations, what can be done, how they can cut people off. They're trained to keep an eye on this, and they're the ones that do the enforcement. Very seldom do the police ever come into bars, and then your public inebriates, chronic inebriates, they don't drink in bars. They get their alcohol from the liquor store, from friends that are sober. So it's not an APD issue. They have their right for the comment, of course, but they really don't enforce. The enforcement is right inside the bars themselves. This comes around to any bad operators or whatever. Those trainees are trained. Those servers are trained to watch out for all those laws.
I would have to come on that. That is true. However, we always have examples over time of operations that just go sideways. And so even your most well-trained community and highest participating broader arena, you are still going to find trouble sites. It just happens. And so, but I believe Ms. Oates' well-experienced regulatory perspective is likely true that we have the tools, we just need to exercise them more effectively when we see locations that are failing the mark.
I agree, because there's such, liquor licenses are worth so much right now that why would you endanger that by doing something stupid?
Right.
Although stupidity should be paid for.
It happens. Oh, I agree. I agree.
Is there? Yes, ma'am.
I would like to make a comment.
Sure. Guys.
So my name
Good.
is,
Yes.
my name for the record is Anna Brawley, and I'd like to speak from two different perspectives. The first is my professional perspective as someone who works on public policy. I just wanted to make an observation and kind of put it back to the Assembly members to consider. We heard a lot about the previous alcohol culture in Anchorage, and unfortunately, policy research depends on a researcher who conducts a study, looks at the before and after, and so sometimes there are limits on the actual documented impacts of a policy versus probable or anecdotal impacts. And I would just put it back to the Assembly to consider, if our alcohol culture has changed over the last 40, 50 years, to what extent was it policy changes that changed that culture and not just regular social change, and whether rolling back those policies will have the opposite effect. So again, I don't have the data for that, but I just want to put that back as an observation. The second one is, as a member of Turnagain Community Council and as a community council member, I would just remind the Assembly that I'm not going to defend every decision that my council has made, whether or not I lived there at the time, but I will remind the Assembly members that community councils are recognized in the municipal charter and that their purpose is to maximize public input in public processes, and so it is entirely appropriate for community councils to consider draft ordinances or draft legislation. So again, I understand that sometimes does not play out in the most productive public process, but that should still be recognized as an important part of our charter and our process.
It's true. Although by that logic, we should go to every single community council for the alcohol tax before we pass it. I mean, it impacts every single community council. It certainly impacts Muldoon, Northeast.
Ms. Oates likes that idea.
We should get sign off with every community council.
Back in the day, we got 3 licenses off 4th Avenue. And it was bus for underage drinking, drunks getting rolled, violence and fights, B-girl routines, and Heather Flynn and I had those records from the cops. And when the renewal license came up, we put very strict provisional revision, and got them.
And there were two, if I might just constant, in the last 3 or 4 years, there was the Rum Runners incident and also the brown bag. And so community impact is felt in these operations, and ideally we get this before. And so again, I think that response back that Ms. Oates' point is well made. And I too agree that the community councils on this matter should be heard, especially those that are impacted.
But my point is putting those guys on notice very clearly and fairly. And as the gentleman said, these licenses are worth a lot of money. And as soon as you are threatening the renewal of it, you got their attention. And all it took was a couple of them losing it, and everybody else straightened up.
Yeah, and you can put it on the Slurpa. You can, so you can change the times. You can put other restrictions on it. I guess real quickly, I know we have a little time, but I don't want to take a lot of it. A person who walked in off the street might be confused about, well, are we doing things that are opposed to each other, right? Looking at the previous hearing and this, why would you take one that Recovery Alaska liked and Char hated, and then the next one the exact opposite? Why aren't we being consistent? I mean, obviously they're significantly different measures, and the reason I support both is because of their differences. I think should alcohol and alcohol consumers pay some of the ongoing freight, if you will, of the cost, I think that makes sense how we exactly do it. The reason, and in this, it's bar hours, not package stores hours, right? Which would be a very different matter. There are people who get drunk in bars, obviously, but there's an overlay of protection for that, and bars can get in trouble if they let too many of them or serve to drunk people too consistently. It happens, but it's in a different environment. It's morning, as you said, Mr. Dunbar, instead of evening, and that can makes a difference, I believe. It's so the differences between them is the reason I don't think it's inconsistent to be supportive of both. And obviously, the leadership people do so. We have 15 minutes. What do you want to do, Mr. Chairman?
Well, we have time now for public comment. If anyone would like to speak, they can. Otherwise, I'm going to close the work session because we don't have to. Go ahead, Ms. Quindy.
Ceiling, not a floor.
Ceiling, not a floor.
It just occurred to me, Mr. Crawford, you mentioned all of that, but I wonder if there's some classism at all going on with this, because we don't want. So we're saying it's okay for people in bars who can afford to be in bars because those types of people maybe aren't as alcohol prone, but we know that alcoholism is rampant, even with people who go into bars. So I guess that argument just kind of got me a little bit, because I'm worried that we're saying, oh, those people who go to package stores have the real problem. All of us who go to bars and drink mimosas don't. And I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, I don't mean it well. In a classic way, I go to package stores and buy things, and I think a lot of other people do. I think it's, if you're going to get dropped down intoxicated, it's more. There are more checks in the bar. So I don't think it's a price or class distinction.
It's that there's people watching over you there.
And I would add, if I might, Mr. Consul, for the record, that if you look at the record of problems in communities, the problems that are driving massive incidents into the neighborhoods, where you have massive trash, where you have rapes going on the street corners, where you have this incredible array of real trouble that neighbors feel painfully. It's occasionally around a bar. It does happen occasionally around a bar, and I do hear those complaints, but consistently and by the hundreds more, it's around the package stores. And so it's little, in my perspective, to do with the class of the individual, how much income they have or don't have. It's much more to do with the access to high volumes and, in fact, the drinking on the street. That is the issue. And so we worked with the Mountain View Community Council and got the agreement of the OKK or Brown Jug to stop opening before noon, because that was when they were having all the problems at their location, and it was a problem for them and the neighbors and even the school children. And so while I can understand the perception that it is about class because bars are more expensive to be drinking in, to me it's the consistent volume of complaints that drives my perspective. Real concerns of people.
Thank you, Mr. Constant. Ms. Quinn Davidson. Okay, anyone else? Yeah?
Sarah, for the record, I would just like to give one example of a situation where a licensee was a bad operator, and you all put limitations on the license, and that was the VFW over off of Old Sewer near Huffman. The community complained a lot about that, and restrictions were put on. And the main complainant was a man named John Kessler, who happens to be a friend of mine. And I ran into him the other day and asked him, hey, by the way, give me an update on the VFW, because that was maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And he said that all of the problems are gone, the trash problems, the drinking problems, the noise, all of those problems are gone. And so it was very effective in that situation.
Thank you, Ms. Oates. All right, with that, this work session is closed.